Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us this morning for the latest edition in our Westpac Smarts webinar series. My name is John Machell and I'm the Head of Hospitality, Tourism and Retail Trade for Westpac Business Banking here in New Zealand. And it's an absolute privilege to be hosting you this morning. So this morning we are here to talk about understanding our customers, or customer obsession, as you'll hear us refer to throughout. This is a continuation of our online webinar series where we hope to bring practical tips and insights from our partners to you, our business community, to help you make 2022 a great year. Here at Westpac Business, our teams are organised by industry, and with this we aim to really understand the sectors that we bank and deliver insights to you that are relevant to your business and your industry. We hope that in doing this we can provide you with food for thought as you contemplate how you might prepare your business for tomorrow. But no matter what industry you're in, understanding your customers will in most instances be a pretty integral factor to your business success. Undoubtedly, there are many positive stories emanating from the COVID period where companies have changed the way they do business to adapt to changing preferences and needs of their customers. But with the increasing cost of doing business, whether this be due to compliance, regulation, through the supply chain, or due to some other factors, are these taking some of us away from the practice of understanding our customers or being customer obsessed? Today, it's really exciting to be joined by a wide range of business owners, operators and advisors in our audience. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we hope that you find the discussion useful. We're also joined by three amazing panelists this morning. Zhi-Ying Barry, Senior Analyst at market research company Forrester. Lawrence Railton, Founder and Managing Director of AS Colour, a leading supplier of premium blank apparel in New Zealand, Australia, UK and the US. And finally, Bruce Reid, Owner and Director of local and international moving and packing business, World Moving Storage. Also a recent winner at the Auckland Chamber Westpac Business Awards for Excellence in Customer Service Delivery. Very warm welcome to you all folks, and look forward to chatting with you some more shortly. In terms of format for this morning's session, we'll hear first from our subject matter expert Zhi, and then we'll turn to our two business owners, Bruce and Lawrence, for their reflections on how customer obsession is relevant to their businesses. Just a quick bit of housekeeping before we start. We absolutely welcome your questions as part of this discussion, and we hope to have some time at the end to answer these. Please feel free to leave your questions in the box at the right hand side of your screen. You can vote for other questions as well to be answered, and the most voted questions will naturally move to the top of the feed. We're going to kick things off this morning just with a quick round of intros. Zhi, welcome. And thanks for joining us today. Would you mind just giving us a brief intro to Forrester and the work that you do for Forrester?
Sure, thanks, John. And good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here. My name is Zhi, and I am a senior analyst at Forrester. Like John has mentioned, Forrester is a research and advisory firm, and what we do is we provide research and advice to many of our clients across different sectors. Primarily, the way I see what we do is we help different companies win, serve, and retain their customers, really looking at the intersection between the customer as well as digital technologies.
Thanks, Zhi, and great to have you here this morning. Next, it's very good morning and welcome to Lawrence Railton, the Founder and Managing Director of AS Colour. Lawrence, great to have you here. Some on the call may recognise AS Colour, the AS Colour name from your chain of retail stores, but your business is much more than that. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey with AS Colour?
Yeah, so AS Colour's our goal is to become the leading premium blank apparel supplier for what we call the imprintable sportswear industry globally. That's predominantly supplying like screen printers, embroiders, uniform companies, the music industry, anyone basically with a logo is basically our customer. But our products are really built around the quality of the fabric we produce and the fabric and the finish. And we've done very well in New Zealand and Australia and the US and the UK, and that's kind of what we do. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Lawrence, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon. Finally, a very warm welcome to Bruce Reid from World Moving Storage. Bruce, some of the audience will undoubtedly recognise your company from your very catchy radio jingle. Congratulations on taking out the recent Westpac Auckland Business Chamber Award for Excellence in Customer Service Delivery. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that World Moving Storage does for its customers?
Yeah, we can do that. Thanks, John. Real privilege to be here and to be talking about our story. World Moving Storage was established in 2002 and is New Zealand's leading household moving company. We move people in and around New Zealand and overseas. And as the jingle goes, experience and advice you can trust. World Moving and Storage. So for those that are listening and that haven't heard it, you now have. Listen out for it. Our business is built around the people interaction, so people dealing with people. Our customers are key, of course, but our people who are dealing with those customers on the front line are the essential part of our business. So we continue to build and grow and build the reputation about getting things right first time. Our goal as far as the business goes is to create a sustainable model that allows us financially to contribute back to our people, but also to build on the service that we provide. And thanks again for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bruce, and yeah, great to have you here with us as well. So moving right along to the crux of why we're all here today, we do have a bit of ground to cover. So back to you, Zhi. So Forrester's research shows that no matter what size of business a company is, customer obsessed firms grow revenue, profitability, customer retention, and employee engagement faster than other companies. But many firms focus their strategies on extracting value from customers rather than maximizing value for customers. This represents a key hurdle in becoming customer obsessed. So let's start with the basics this morning. Tell us what being customer obsessed actually means.
Sure, John. I think this term, if you think about it, you will have different interpretations of what that means. So I think it's very important for us to define it and to really express what the characteristics of that is. When we speak to many different companies, both large, medium-sized, as well as small companies, we find that many of the firms, they told us that they are very much customer obsessed. But when we look at the data that we collected, so based on this research, we looked at more than 1,000 firms and the founders and executives in those companies, we found that in reality, not many firms are actually customer obsessed. Just to give you a sense, those we found were customer obsessed. They were in the single digit percentage number. So when we talk about customer obsession, it is truly about putting customers at the center of your leadership, your strategy, as well as your operations. And as you look at the definition here on this slide, it is a perpetual business orientation. It doesn't stop. So you have to consciously and consistently ensure that all these three pillars actually align to what your customers want. And when we talk about leadership, it is the process of influencing your firm by providing the purpose, the direction, and motivation for your business, operating your business to a specific vision. So an example I can give here is if you think about Stripe, if that's an online payment processor that you have integrated on your own websites for customers to buy different products and services. For them, Stripe's mission is to increase the GDP of the internet. So that kind of flows into their strategy where they really emphasize the importance of integration. So it makes it very easy for businesses to integrate Stripe payment into their ecosystem. It also translates to some of the products that they have that goes beyond payments, and that includes things like treasury or cash management services. And then we look at the operations that they have, where they have really hired a lot of developers and customer service folks in order to serve their own customers. So I think this is how we see customer obsession, which is the continuous and perpetual consistency to make sure that you iterate and you put customers at the heart of all aspects of your business.
Thanks, Zhi. One of the things I took out of the opening part of your explanation there was the concept versus the application, two very different things. So just to continue, why should firms become customer obsessed?
I think that there are huge advantages for small businesses to embrace customer obsession. So based on our data, we compared the different maturity levels of different types of firms, and we found that for customer-obsessed firms, they report 2.5 times higher revenue growth and also 2.2 times higher employee retention, as well as customer engagement. And I think these are very critical in today's world, where we are also starting to see many different types of businesses struggling to grow, and not just that, but also struggling to retain their employees. We've heard how difficult it is to hire different types of roles and people in their organizations. So I think it's really important that firms should become customer obsessed.
Presumably there are different levels of customer obsession. How do we categorize customers in terms of their level, and what does it look like practically to be at each level?
Yeah, so I think when we look at maturity levels, there are 5 different levels that you see here. At the most bottom level that you have here, these are the customer naive firms, which they have completely lost touch with the market climate. And I think for these firms, we have decided not to analyze them because we just didn't think there was a lot of merit to doing that or value in doing that. And a minority of firms actually fall within this category because over time that business will not become viable anymore. So at the next level of maturity is what we call customer aware firms. So these are the firms that don't really have a clear path going forward. They don't really have a strategy of how they want to acquire or retain customers. So the recommendation here is for them to practice new habits to really understand what customers actually want. Many of the companies that fall within the customer aware level of maturity, these are the firms that have very high level of regulation, very low level of competition. So some of the sectors that will come to mind will be the utilities or the energy sector, like oil and gas, where they don't really have a lot of competition and their customers don't really have a lot of choice. The next level is what we call customer engaged. So firms in this category, they do understand customer obsession or putting customers at the heart of their businesses. It's very important. But a lot of the things that they do, it's very ad hoc, trying to improve their experience in store, for instance, but really neglecting, say, their online experience. So we recommend that firms will embed obsession as part of their entire DNA. And through our research, we found that many retailers actually fall within this category. And then the next level is what we call customer committed, that they prioritize functional quality over empathy. Some of the companies we find that fall within this category are healthcare companies, and I think it's quite easy to understand why. They believe that they are providing you with that quality of care, but they might not really be empathizing with how you feel. If you think about the last visit to the clinic or the hospital, you don't really have a healthcare professional who really feels if you're anxious, they don't share the same type of emotions, but they will tell you what to do in a very functional manner. So we believe that you should build customer goodwill. We see that in certain companies, healthcare companies like CVS Health in the US, where the CEO actually banned the sale of tobacco because they believe that in the long term, it will serve them much better. It will serve their customers and patients and all the third-party providers much better if they don't sell tobacco in their stores, even though it contributed to about $2 billion to their revenue. But they were quite happy to do that because they wanted to build that customer goodwill. And then at the top of that maturity is what we call customer obsessed. They continually invest to improve customer experience, but we also caution that they should become future fit, where they really look at what's the return on investment on some of the different initiatives that we have. And some of the companies that we see belong to this category would be companies like your Amazons or your Netflix, where they continually invest in personalizing those types of experiences for their customers. So I think you might be wondering, where do I fit as an organization? So in order to get to the level that you see here, we have come up with the customer obsession assessment. This is a modified version, and what you see here will be questions that we ask many of these respondents, and you will then score yourself on a scale of 7, 1 being you completely disagree, and then 7 being you completely agree. So you can have a look at some of these questions and really assess for yourselves. And we recommend taking this not just yourself, but some of the members in your organizations, because sometimes we actually do see quite a difference between whether or not that employee is a frontline employee versus someone who is not really interacting with the customers. So things like we emphasize doing right by the customer over tasks and processes, and sometimes a frontline employee will rate this much lower than someone who is not in touch with the customer. So some of the questions we ask would be things like, our CEO and founders put themselves in their customer shoes, and some of the practical representations of that is they actually go out to the market and observe all these interactions with their customers. And I just wanted to emphasize that we're not saying that every company should become customer obsessed. To really determine where you want to be and which areas you want to play, it's very important that you look at what is the level of competition in your sector and what is the level of empowerment of your customers. Are they very likely to try out new types of technologies? Do they compare and do reviews? Do they actually, are they empowered in that manner and they expect a lot from you? So if there are very low levels of competition in your business and very low levels of customer empowerment, then you can actually get by being customer aware. But if that level of competition is very high and your customers expect a lot from you, then you have to become customer obsessed. So I just wanted to highlight the importance of this, which is you don't really have to aim for that quadrant on the right that you see here, but really understanding where you play as part of the broader market.
Thanks, Zhi. So if I'm a business owner, potentially with limited resource or access to fancy systems or agencies, what should I be focusing on in order to start to build a customer obsessed strategy?
Mm-hmm. Sure, John. I think at the beginning of this webinar, you mentioned how firms are maximizing value from customers, not maximizing value for customers. When we talk about maximizing value from customers, I think that's all your profit models, how you want to price your products and services, ways that you can make money. We're not saying that that's not important. We think that is crucial, and that is the motivation behind a lot of what you're doing. But we're saying that you have to also think about what's in it for your customers. So when we think about value for customers, it refers to the customer's perception of what they get versus what they actually give up as they pursue a goal. So when we talk about what they get is whatever product, services, or experiences that you provide, and then what they give up is they have to pay for it, or they have to spend time doing it, or they have to give up other aspects of their lives in order to get access to this product or services. So you have to ensure that whatever they give up is actually lower than what they get. So the value they get is much overweighs everything else that they give up. So there are 4 dimensions of value when we think about value for customers. The first is economic value. Very, it's probably quite understandable. When we talk about value for economic value for customers, it's when money is gained or lost. So whether they save money on something or they actually lose money on something. And one example here is LD. You go to LD because you are getting a great deal. So customers go to LD. So that's the value that the company has given to that customer. The second value is what we call functional value, where the task is easily completed, or that customer can derive, can achieve that goal and get the value that they set out to achieve. So an example here is Kathmandu. You buy their jackets, they're not always the cheapest around, but you always feel warm when you wear their jacket, and it fulfills that purpose that you set out to do. And the third is experiential value, and this refers to the interactions or the experiences when they interact with your brand, your employees. I think we talked about customer service and how important that is. And I think, Bruce, you mentioned that as well as part of your value proposition. So a company that we think about here would be Apple. Whether you walk into a store or you go online, you know that you are well taken care of. The next is symbolic, and that is a much harder value to provide for customers, where you make them feel like they belong, you give them a sense of self-worth and status. And a company here is Patagonia. So on Black Friday sales, which is the start of the Christmas shopping season, I know we have it in Australia, New Zealand. Patagonia, which manufactures a lot of these sportswear, they actually ran a full page ad on the New York Times saying with big, bold words, "Don't buy this jacket." So instead of asking consumers to buy and purchase and consume a lot of their product, they're saying, rethink your choices, because you might not need the next thing that's on sale. And they have a very strong sense of trying to ensure that they're doing their bit for environmental protection, and they're all certified B Corp as part of that. But what we're saying as well is you don't have to just provide one value. You could also cut across different types of value. And I don't know if you're familiar with Who Gives a Crap, and that's a company that sells toilet paper. They donate 50% of their profits to building a toilet and improve sanitation. And it cuts. They do provide value across this 4 different dimensions. So I think I just wanted everyone to really think about, what is the value that you provide for customers, and do you is that also or that overweighs what they have to give up?
Thanks, Zhi. Definitely some interesting food for thought there. Looking through the different lenses of those dimensions. So, what are your recommendations for a firm that might be looking to get started on this journey?
Yeah, so I'll leave you with 3 steps because I always think that people remember only 3 things from any conversation or any presentations. So the first is obviously you need to really understand what your customers value. So there were 4 different dimensions of value. Depending on your customer base or what target segments you want to go after, they might not value these 4 dimensions equally. So your customers might be quite happy to pay a little bit more for functional value, or pay a little bit more for experiential value, or your customers could be very cost conscious and they don't care about all the other 3 dimensions of value that I just mentioned. So to do that, you could do in-depth interviews with your customers or jobs to be done analysis, do some of these qualitative interviews where you sit down with them and ask them what are some of the emotions that they go through. I think some of you might be thinking, that doesn't sound very practical. Are there other ways for us to do this, given that we don't really have those tools or resources to do more in-depth research into our customers? I would say yes. One other way to do that is doing your secondary research. So really looking at what are customers looking at these days. Some of these Google Analytics insights that you might get, or looking at the reviews, or reaching out to your customers on social media, reading some of the feedback that they have. Or you could also tap into your employees who interact with these customers on a daily basis. What are they saying? How do they feel about these interactions? What's most important to them? So I think there are different ways to find out what customers value, just based on the different primary and secondary approaches that you can use. The second is to really define your value sweet spot. So with that, firstly, you need to understand what the value needs are, which is point number one that I have there. And then the second step that you have to take is to match that to where your organization excels at, whether it's economic value or functional value or something else, and then figure out what gives you a competitive advantage and identify those gaps. So this is something that you can do, on paper, based on paper and pen, with some of the folks in your team or across your company. Is once you know what customers need, really rate them a low, medium, or high, whether it's economic, symbolic, functional, or experiential value that they have, and then map out where your company actually excels. So in this case, you can see that this particular company is very good at cost savings. They compete on price, and they're very functional. And then look at where your competitors deliver. And here it's also the same levers across economic and functional value. So you can see that the gap here, and it's very clear once you visualize that on paper, is that you need to start delivering on the symbolic and experiential value. And that's where you can have a competitive advantage. So I think this could be a good way as you reevaluate some of the steps that you're taking, or reevaluate your business strategy going forward.
Thanks, Zhi. Awesome insights here, and we look forward to chatting with you again in a few minutes. For now, we're going to pass over to our two business owners, Lawrence and Bruce. And starting first with you, Bruce. Now, before I embarked upon a career in banking, I spent 6 years in the household relocations business myself, and I know firsthand that it can be, it's a very personal service that you are providing to your customers. How obsessed are you and as World Moving and Storage about your customers, and what do you do to understand them?
Yeah, thanks, John. Zhi, great presentation. It's interesting, when I first got the information, I thought customer obsessed. That feels like something I'd need a clinical psych to come and help me out with, and luckily I've got one of those at home. My wife is. But when we talked about it, the obsession, the first thing is to say, what is the obsession? I think the careful thing I'd say in here is that, yes, I'm absolutely customer obsessed, because every day I'm thinking about how we deliver a better service to the people. As you pointed out, we tend to have one-off interactions, and if there are multiple interactions, it happens over 5 or 10 years when people sell their houses. So what we try to do is to leave the people with an experience that allows them to recommend our business to their friends and others that are around, and that also helps us segment our market. So, the people that we want to be moving are the ones telling their friends and family they should be moving with us. So our obsession sits in there of getting it right first time and making moving easy, and those are probably the key things we keep reiterating back to our people. When I look purely at the customer aspect of it, and I look at the business, the business has to be very careful it doesn't get so obsessed with the customers it forgets all of the components and all the ingredients that go into mixing a good cake, if you like. And the customer experience, the obsession and the focus around the customers is important, but it's just as important to have some of those other areas of your business working alongside that. And Zhi, it was great to see the linking in with the strategy and the people as well, and I'd agree wholly with that. So yeah, we are obsessed with our customers because we want them to walk away with an experience that allows them to recommend to others.
Thanks, Bruce. Lawrence, what about for AS Colour? How obsessed are you about your customers, and what do you do to understand them?
I think your customer obsession is really important, because at the end of the day, if you're not there for your customers, what's the point of you being in business? When I started the business back in 2005, I looked at the t-shirt industry and decided, looking at all the customers, I went and researched and looked at the market opportunities. I decided that we needed to go after the quality offering of the t-shirt industry. And that's what we're obsessed with. We're obsessed with producing super high quality products for people to put their logos on, or their prints on, or their brand on. And that goes into everything we do, from our warehousing to the service we offer online. A customer can go onto our website. We carry millions of t-shirts in stock, and that order will flow down within a few minutes into our ERP, then to our warehouse management system. And then we've now even gone further into automating our warehouses. We've just invested in a 20,000 tote shuttle system so we can get orders out within 10, 20 minutes now, which used to take 3 or 4 hours in the queue of orders for the day. On a given day, we can be shipping up to 80,000 t-shirts across all the 4 warehouses. And at the core of that, everything we do should be focused on our customers' needs, and that's delivering our order accurately, on time, and to the customer with the perceived quality that they expect from us. Because a lot of our orders are for events or concerts or different events that are happening around Australia or New Zealand or the US. And so the key thing for us is that we're obsessed with the customer's needs and delivering the product on time and accurately to them.
Thanks, Lawrence. I'm hearing themes of sort of functionality and experience in terms of the 4 value dimensions coming through strongly there. Another question for you, Lawrence. So how consciously, I mean, I think you've touched on this already, but yeah, how consciously are you practicing customer obsession in your business? Like what are the artifacts of this? What would somebody that was coming into your business see and hear, on a day-to-day basis, that kind of evidences that this is happening within AS Colour?
Yeah, basically we want the transaction. We've got customers that are ordering maybe 2 or 3 times a year, or we've got customers that are ordering 4 times a day from us. And so we want their transaction to be very smooth. We basically generally don't hear from our customers unless there's a problem, or out of stock with inventory, or they've had a mispick on an order or something like that. So we're basically analysing, missed calls from our customers on a daily basis, seeing that we're getting back to customers quickly and timely with special phone systems that we've implemented. But again, a lot of our business, when we place an order, it takes 6 months for that stock to arrive from a factory. We have to spend a lot of time analysing our customers' data of what they've been ordering, because we don't get any forward planning from any of our customers, and we're basically their warehouse for their stock. So we spend a lot of time researching all our product sales data, forecasting, working out where we need to hold inventory for these businesses, so that when they go to order and they need, say, 10,000 t-shirts for a concert next week in Australia, we actually have the 10,000 t-shirts ready to go, and we get it out that day for them.
Thanks, Lawrence. That's really interesting. I mean, do you, just as an aside, do you provide any of those insights along the way back to your customers around the kind of analysis that you do?
No, they just get grumpy with us if we don't have the stock for them and blame us. But we've spent a lot of time. It's taken us years to perfect. We've invested heavily in large warehouses, like especially with COVID. We've had to, and we used to be, before COVID, 5 months for factory orders, some now taking 7 to 8 months for delivery. So we've had to invest heavily in big warehouses, and they're storing stock as efficiently as possible. We've moved all our warehousing to what we call VNA warehousing, which is very narrow aisle, where we get 30% more storage. Our newest warehouse in Auckland now is 18 metres high, and holds about 30% more storage than a traditional warehouse of that same size. So just using different technologies to store more product, and then ship it out quicker, faster, and more accurately to customers.
Thanks, Lawrence. Back to you, Bruce. In relation to customer obsession, how have you had to adjust things in your business as a result of COVID over the last couple of years?
Yeah, COVID created some different challenges for us, mainly because moving house while working from home doesn't work as well as what it could do. So probably a couple of the big changes there is we saw more and more of our customers nervous about having people within their properties. So we changed the way we go about the surveying of the properties, and we do most of probably 80% of the work we do now is virtual surveys, where we use your different type of medias to our consultants walk through the house with the customer virtually. That's kind of balancing back again, but it seems like 60% of the people still want to do that anyway because it fits with their lifestyle and a change that they've made in their lives as well. The other thing that was a big change was getting the safety requirements balanced out for the customers and for our teams that were going out, because they did have to go on site. So we went very much along the lines of here's what we'll do to keep you safe when we're doing the moving, and here's how you can help with us. And then as people have become less focused on that, we've just kind of eased that back a little bit, but it certainly made a change to the way we have interacted with the customers, because previously it would have been the handshake, the eye contact, it's okay, we've got this sorted with the big smile, and you take 3 of those out of it. You need to change the way you actually approach the customers. So a lot more of what we were doing was the communication in advance of the move. So we spent more time talking to them before our people got there to make sure they were comfortable and we were comfortable with what was going to happen, and then empowering our people when they were on site to make good decisions, and backing up those decisions with them. The key for me is our people that we've got going into the people's homes are great communicators. We've worked hard on those crews, being able to communicate, to give the confidence that this move is going to be done. I mean, when do you move house? And when you do move house, you're incredibly stressed, whether it's with COVID or without COVID. So our goal is always to take that stress away and to provide the customer with an experience that they're right about. While I've been sitting here, I've had 4 emails in this morning that have come through from my team, customers saying what a fantastic job the team had done with their moves yesterday. And every day we get those, and we reinforce the positive behaviours that bring those messages back by recirculating them back to everyone. And we thank the team for the job they do and show them that we appreciate the work they're doing, at the same time as passing on the feedback from the customers. So, obsessed, absolutely obsessed with these customers.
Awesome, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a personal service from my history. So that really does strike a chord. One assumes the kind of the virtual nature, the virtual survey. There's some potential sort of positives for the business as well, in terms of actually maybe being able to sort of fit more of those in any given day, compared to having people out on the road. There's a sustainability aspect to it as well, because one of the big pushes we've got is around reducing our footprint, and certainly not having reps running all over town has made a big difference. But I suppose the bigger thing is the convenience for our customers. It's difficult to make the time to get there, to be at the right time. A lot of the surveys we do are what would be normally out of hours now. We don't have to have someone going on site. They're able to do it at a time that suits our customers. And it just makes the experience that much better. But you're absolutely right. The ability to do 5 surveys a day versus 3 surveys a day has made a big difference to the amount of business that we can bring in. That's great. What about you, Lawrence? I think we touched on it before. Supply chain restraints, constraints have they have impacted everybody's ability to move stuff around the globe, in time or under sort of the previous schedules we were all working to. How have you had to change things or amend your approach to maintain that customer obsession?
The biggest thing with COVID was the supply chain risk. Like, we always just took our supply chain for granted, and then when COVID kind of happened, as a heavily inventory-based business, to see your supply chain just suddenly get turned all upside down, whether it was global shipping or you couldn't get stock out of certain ports, or that port was in lockdown. I think that was the real challenge. And for our customers, they rely on us to have inventory. So if we don't have the inventory, basically the screen printers in New Zealand and Australia have no stock for t-shirts, so their business grinds to a halt. So if we ran out of stock, there's a flow-on effect to all the businesses that we support in what we call the imprintables industry. So that was the thing that really was a real knock to confidence, because you saw that this thing that was so stable for 10 years suddenly just got uplifted, and you can no longer take for granted that you can just get supply from China or Asia and it'll turn up when you want it to turn up and cost, we used to pay $3,000 a container. Now we're moving containers at $20,000 a container. And when you're moving 10 or 15, 20 of these containers, the cost is considerable. So basically, we were lucky that we had 3 big warehouses, and so we really pushed our stock holding up. We basically tripled our inventory levels, because we knew if we didn't have the stock, it didn't matter what we did from a service level or anything else in the business. If we didn't have the inventory for our customers, nothing else mattered, because you could have the best service, but if you've got nothing to sell them, that's there's no product for our customers. So we really invested heavily in inventory, and we've just leased a new warehouse in North Carolina, which is 22,000 square meters, so we can hold more stock for our US customers, because we've had lots of problems getting inventory into California. The supply chain in the US is in a terrible state compared to New Zealand. Trying to get inventory in from the West Coast from Asia is really complicated at this time. So we're investing in more warehouses closer to our customers, so we can hold the stock and have it there for them when they need it.
Thanks, Lawrence. And just hearing you, and obviously having the ability to to get that stock in and to hold it, just from a kind of a balance sheet, a liquidity, an equity position. I mean, one assumes your kind of level of customer obsession sort of flows through into the financial sort of position of the business to be able to do that. So one assumes you've operated your business in such a way that you've been able to actually sort of cope with that.
Yeah, we've always kept a strong balance sheet because we're a capital intensive business, and I'm thankful that we did that when COVID happened, because we were in the position where we could go to Westpac and really leverage up against our trade finance facilities, and it's put us in a competitive advantage to supply the customers in our industry, where maybe some of our competitors they didn't have that capability with their funding line. So, and it's put us in a stronger position where at first, when we thought we're losing all our event companies in Australia, it's actually been an opportunity for us, because we had the stock and we had the level of inventory that our customers needed, and then they saw that we had the stocks, and more customers converted over to our business in Australia. So we went through up to like 50% growth in Australia, because we were able to meet most of the demand that our customers needed.
Well, it's great to hear some positives coming out of the COVID period. Final question for both of our panelists, Lawrence and Bruce. What would you recommend to small businesses seeking to become more customer obsessed? I'll start with you, Bruce.
Yeah, it's interesting, because for small businesses, it's about time. It's about having the time to do things, to plan, to look at, the interview your customers and your staff and those types of things. I suppose my recommendation would be to find the low-hanging fruit and do something. Once you start on the pathway in there, you can gather momentum around this. The other one is the owner of the business. You need to walk it. Every day you need to be walking about it. You need to be talking about it in a really positive way. It's interesting you said about positive times coming out of COVID. There's so much negativity around at the moment, and everyone's looking and saying, "Oh, what can we do? That's too big." Well, yeah, just do something, because everything you do that kind of takes you down a more positive pathway reflects on the people that you're working with and the people that are around you all the time, and back on the customers. We talk to our customers about how positive things are in the business. Yes, no doom and gloom here, because it's just modelling the business to actually fit the environment that we've got in. So my recommendation to the small business and medium business owners is to not get so tied up in thinking about it that you forget the doing. So yeah, do something, make a difference today in your business, get a little bit of focus there, and then build on it and build the momentum around it. That'd be my advice.
Awesome, thanks, Bruce. So make a start, and also had mindset really important as well.
Yep.
What about you, Lawrence?
Yeah, I agree with Bruce. I mean, when you're running a business, there's just so many things to focus on, and you can get distracted in the wrong things. And I think it's really key to focus on the things that are going to give you the biggest win. Your time's limited, as an owner. The old saying, time is money, but, you spend that time where you're going to get the biggest gain for your customers. Because if you can, if you're there for your customer at the end of the day, whether it's providing a service or a product, so focus on whether it's creating the best product or giving the best service, or, upgrading the system, which will help your customer's experience, or building a better website, which makes it easier for your customer to transact with you. But focus on those things that'll give you the biggest gain for your customers. And try not to get caught up in all the noise, especially as you grow, because you get more and more people, and it gets more and more complicated to focus on the customer, because you end up in all the internal politics of running a bigger organization, as Bruce will know. But at the end of the day, you're there for your customer. And I always say to my staff, they want to have all these meetings all day long. I say, look, if the meeting we're having isn't actually improving the experience for our customer, what's the point of that meeting? Because we are here for our customers, and we're not here for internal politics. We're here to provide a better product, deliver it on time, quickly and accurately to our customers, and that's what we should be spending our time on.
That's some great advice. I think that will probably ring true for many of us on the call, on the session this morning. So thanks to you both. Just looking at the clock, it's it's almost time to wrap up. But what it is time for is to just to turn to our Slido chat box. There are a couple of questions here. Just reading from the top. This is potentially one for you, Zhi. How do you measure these? How do you measure the outcomes and judge your progress? If we sort of think back to your presentation.
Yeah, I think when I talked about the assessment between the 1-point to 7-point scale, and a lot of, depending on where you want to be. So if you want to be a customer obsessed firm, then you are looking at 95 points to be in that sort of quadrant that you want to be. So we're saying that you need to improve on the different where the gaps are, depending on whether it's strategy, leadership, or operations, because depending on which sector you're in or what sort of market you're in, there might be different areas of improvement based on where that is. So I would say, as you take that assessment, just looking at where these gaps are, and look at what you need to do in order to get to which level of maturity that you want to be. So I think that's sort of what we would recommend is, if you want to be a customer obsessed firm, then find out where these gaps are for you to get to that quadrant.
Thanks, Zhi. And presumably, I mean, that part of that process, you would almost sort of sit down with your team and sort of set some criteria and kind of work it up together. So it can be, relatively fluid or tailored to your your particular organisation.
Yes.
Next question. This one might also be for you, Zhi. Are there any do's and don'ts when it comes to being? Well, we've heard a lot about do's, but are there any don'ts when it comes to being customer obsessed?
I think it was really interesting for me to hear from Bruce and Lawrence around don't forget your business. So you really have to weigh it up, right? Like you can be super customer obsessed, but if it's to the detriment of your business and you're losing money on being so customer obsessed, and you probably shouldn't be doing that. So it is, to what extent do you want to better serve your customers, and how does that look like when you look at some of your business interests and the outcomes that you want, and weigh them and figure out, whether or not you should go ahead with some of these initiatives that you have. So you really have to find that sweet spot where, as you provide for customers and offer that value for customers, for that customer, how does that translate to the business outcomes that you want? And never forget that too.
Thanks, Zhi. One more question's come in. What is your preferred source of information about your customers? I wonder if we can throw this back to you, Bruce.
Yeah, we rely a lot on the customer feedback. We follow up with the customers after the jobs, what went right, what went wrong. And we learn, and I mean, anyone in business knows, when you don't quite get it right, is when you have your most learning in there. And the key for me is to have the business continually improving. So we just align with the feedback we're getting from our customers. We also listen a lot to our people who are out on the road, the ones that are interacting on a daily basis with our customers out there, because they have some massive insights that we never see, because in the office you don't actually see it. I make a habit of getting out once a week, dropping in on a couple of the jobs just to see how things are going. So from a visual point of view, it reminds me of how difficult the work is and how good our people are at doing that work. And that just reinforces the messages that I can keep moving through with the team, and also the way that I choose to present myself within the business and the work that we do.
Sure. Thanks, Bruce. And what about you, Lawrence? Sounds like there's probably a few different sources of information that you can draw from in terms of your customers. What are some of your preferred ones?
We get a lot of feedback from like our sales reps and customer services teams, giving us feedback on products that our customers are requesting, or certain colours they want added into our range, or different categories of new products, whether it's accessories or bags, or new products that they see a gap in the market, and we'll develop those products for the customers. We're also trying to, within our range, we've got different products at different life cycles, so we're studying a lot what our customers are ordering and trying to predict which products are trending up, which products are trending down, so we have our inventory in the right levels, and that's all dictated off what the customers are purchasing. So we're really studying that data every purchasing round, which is every 3 weeks, and trying to really evaluate where the trends are going in our styles, and what products need to be removed from the range and which products need to be added in to meet our customers' needs.
Sure. Yeah. Sounds especially important with such a supply chain lag these days. Hey, thanks, Lawrence. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Zhi. So this is all we've got time for this morning. We've run a little over time, but it's been a really great discussion. A big thank you to our audience for tuning in. I really hope that our discussion has provided some perspectives on the importance of understanding your customers, or being customer obsessed. Perhaps for some, you may have discovered that in fact you are pretty customer obsessed. For others, this may be a chance to stop, reflect, and consider what you might do differently looking ahead. One thing's for sure, and I think we heard this at the start from Zhi, with the business environment and the landscape changing so quickly these days, being customer obsessed is far from being something that we can just set and forget about. This needs to be a permanent cultural mindset that evolves over time and with our customers. So we'll be sending out a recording of this session a few days from now. Please feel free to share this with your colleagues, your team, or anybody else. If you have any follow-up questions for any of our panelists, please feel free to get in touch with us at events@westpac.co.nz. There will be a rating survey to your right on the Slido poll, so please do leave your feedback there, as we really appreciate it. Yeah, so a huge thank you once again to Zhi, Lawrence, and Bruce for taking the time to dial in this morning and join me, and for your contribution to New Zealand business. So thanks again, everybody, and to Odessa and our team that have made this webinar possible this morning. Enjoy the rest of your week. Mā te wā.